This block of rose granite carries a cut so long, so smooth, that engineers say no tool in ancient Egypt should have been able to make it. It lies in the wreck of a pyramid built by Khufu's own son, a pyramid that was still being carried away when the archaeologist Flinders Petrie reached it in the 1880s. 300 camel-loads of stone, every single day. The looters took the pyramid, but they couldn't move the block, and in the last few years, that one cut has become the most argued over piece of stone on the internet, because depending on who you ask, it was made by copper, sand, and patience, or by a saw the ancient world should never have been able to build. So, what made that cut? The place is called Abu Rawash. The pyramid belonged to the pharaoh Djedefre, and a Franco-Swiss mission under Michel Valoggia spent 16 years excavating it, publishing its findings in 2011. The cut is real. Engineers like Christopher Dunn have measured it and built a case that it required machinery. Egyptologists point back to Flinders Petrie, who was documenting saw marks in Egyptian granite 140 years ago, and to a tools researcher named Dennis Stocks, who has spent decades actually cutting granite the ancient way to settle the question. And the strangest clue in the whole case isn't at the pyramid at all. It's been sitting in plain sight in a Cairo Museum for a century, carved into the king's own coffin. Both sides have data. Neither side has surrendered. Giza, around 2560 BC. The greatest builder in Egyptian history is dead. Khufu, the king of the Great Pyramid, is carried to his tomb by the man who now inherits everything, his son, Djedefre. We know Djedefre performed the burial because he left his signature on it. His name is written on the massive roofing blocks sealing his father's funeral boat pit at the foot of the Great Pyramid itself. And then the new king does something no pharaoh before him has ever done. He leaves Giza. He marches his court 8 kilometers north to a desert ridge high above the Nile and starts building his own pyramid on the highest ground any pyramid has ever claimed. The building itself was smaller than his father's. It didn't need to be bigger, because from the river valley below, standing on that ridge, Djedefre's pyramid rose from a foundation so high that it could command the horizon alongside Giza's giants. And its lowest courses were dressed in polished granite, shipped 800 kilometers down the Nile from Aswan. He changed something else too. He was the first king in history to take the title Son of Re, child of the sun god. Every pharaoh for the next 2,500 years would carry that title. The man invented part of what pharaoh means, and within a few generations, almost nothing of him was left standing. Abu Rawash, 1901, a French excavator named Émile Chassignat starts digging the ridge, and the ground gives him a crime scene. Fragments of royal statues, around 120 of them, smashed. A brand new pharaonic dynasty, a dead king's statues in pieces, a pyramid reduced to its bones. Early Egyptology took one look and wrote a family tragedy. The theory ran like this. Djedefre took the throne over the body of his older brother Kawab, the rightful heir, dead before their father. And when Djedefre himself died, the next brother Khafre, the future builder of the second pyramid, and, per the textbooks, the Sphinx, took revenge, smashed the statues, tore down the monument, erased the usurper. It's a perfect story. Ambition, fratricide, vengeance chiseled into stone. Pharaohs really did erase pharaohs, queens, heretics, usurpers, chiseled off their own walls. But at Abu Rawash, the evidence walked away from the story. Because if a vengeful brother didn't destroy this pyramid, what did was stranger. When Valoggia's team finally excavated the site properly, 1995 to 2011, the pyramid told them it had been finished. Casing laid, complex completed, a real functioning royal tomb, standing intact for over 2,000 years. The destruction didn't come from a vengeful brother. It came from customers. The ridge sits beside a major crossroads, and starting in the Roman era, Djedefre's pyramid became the most convenient stone yard in northern Egypt. Pre-cut, pre-polished, free. The Romans took it apart. Everyone after them kept going, down to those 300 camel-loads a day in Petrie's lifetime. Even the smashed statues now look less like rage and more like recycling, quartzite broken down for reuse. Djedefre wasn't murdered by his family. He was eaten by the economy. But here's what the quarrymen did without meaning to. By stripping the pyramid to its skeleton, they exposed what no Egyptian was ever supposed to see: the raw internal engineering of the 4th dynasty, the same generation that built Giza. And lying in that exposed skeleton is the block. Rose granite, one of the hardest stones ever worked by human beings. And running across this block's face, a long, shallow, curving cut. Smooth, even, confident. The surface carries fine, sweeping striations, arc-shaped lines, one after another, like the trail of a blade that swept through the stone again and again. Engineer Christopher Dunn looked at the geometry of those arcs and did what engineers do. He extrapolated the tool. His conclusion: the arcs are consistent with a circular saw blade of enormous diameter, powered, precise, nothing like anything in the archaeological record. A recent 2-hour on-site engineering investigation of that claim made this obscure block famous almost overnight. Egyptology's answer has been on the books since the 1880s. Flinders Petrie, the father of scientific archaeology, documented long saw cuts in hard stone at Giza and catalogued them as evidence of large bronze and copper saws used with abrasive. Not a lost machine, a lost industry. And then Dennis Stocks spent 30 years testing it. Copper saw blades, no teeth, just soft metal, dragged back and forth over quartz sand. The sand does the cutting, the blade just carries it. It works. It cuts granite. Slowly, brutally slowly. But Egypt's whole royal economy ran on exactly that kind of slow. And the strongest witness for the copper saw case isn't at Abu Rawash at all. It's that coffin in Cairo, Djedefre's own sarcophagus. Its granite carries partially sawn slots, abandoned mid-cut, 4,500 years ago. And their V-shaped profile matches what Stock's experimental copper saws produce when the blade rocks in the cut. The workers' unfinished strokes, frozen in stone, from this exact king's own workshop. The machining camp pushes back. The scale doesn't add up. The arcs are too regular. The cut too fast, too deep, too casual. A discarded offcut. Cut with the indifference of a tool that found granite easy. So where does the evidence actually sit? The copper and sand case has receipts. Petrie's 19th century documentation, Stock's working reconstructions, unfinished cuts on the king's own sarcophagus, quarries, tool marks, and tens of thousands of workers' fingerprints all over the 4th dynasty. The machine case has a question the other side has never fully closed: the sheer, casual, industrial confidence of it all. Millions of tons of the hardest stone on earth, moved, cut, and polished at a tempo we struggle to reproduce, with not one saw of the required size ever found. The standard answer, copper was precious and endlessly recycled, so the saws themselves would never survive, is reasonable. It is also, conveniently, unfalsifiable. If the last video taught us anything, it's this. At Giza, The stone keeps better records than the scribes did. And sometimes those records don't quite match. The cut at Abu Rawash was almost certainly made by human hands, copper, sand, and a workforce the modern world refuses to properly imagine. Almost certainly. The blade, whatever it was, has never been found. Djedefre invented the title Son of Re, buried the greatest builder in history, and raised a pyramid on the highest ground in Egypt. The centuries took his monument apart, load by load, and history nearly filed him under a crime his brother never committed. But the looters, stripping his pyramid for parts, accidentally turned it into something no intact pyramid can ever be, an open autopsy of how the Pyramid Age actually worked. His ruin now asks sharper questions than his monument ever could. And it isn't the only stone on that plateau still holding out on us. The Sphinx has been fighting its own forensic war for 35 years. Geologists on one side, Egyptologists on the other, and rain that shouldn't exist in the middle. That story is already on the channel. Egypt's monuments were built to outlast questions. They're outlasting the answers instead. If you want the buried side of Egypt, the erased names, the missing tools, the monuments that don't add up, subscribe. We dig where the textbooks stop.